guys, this is Albin with Albin Co. I am bringing in the 757 House Whisperer show tonight. Chuck, Cindy, Jack, and Michael are not here tonight. They're all out and about doing something else. Hi guys, hope you're able to tune in. So Chuck Worley is the founder of the 757 House Whisperer show and also the owner of Worley Home Services. He specializes in HVAC, plumbing, electrical, spray foam, and crawl space encapsulation, and he recently added geothermal wells to his repertoire. He also, I believe, along with the geothermal wells, I think he's also doing wells. Damien's shaking his head over here, so I guess that's I can't think of anything else he does. They do a fantastic job at what they got going on, and they are, you guys obviously see him out on the road. He's got trucks galore out there. I think he's up to like 70 trucks or something like that. But they've got, they can service you. And this is a great time to be calling him because I know you probably have got some stuff going on with your HVAC with even maybe the cold snaps we've been having, or maybe even some plumbing issues with lines freezing and stuff like that. Also like to introduce Cindy with Alpha Pest Solutions. She is the one that's going to take care of your critters. She's the critter gritter in the area. She will help you with anything that has to do with crawl spaces as far as inspections, mold, mildew, termite, fungus, that kind of stuff. And she's the only lady in the area with a license to kill, from what I hear. Or that's her little phrase. I think it's pretty cool. So, and then we got Jack Keller. He is with, he's the owner of Legacy Painting. They specialize in painting, and they also do drywall work. If you got a situation where you want to get some rooms painted, maybe it's a little dinged up, he'll come in, fix all the dings, and I don't know if he does textures, probably does. So might be able to match up a texture on a wall and get you a new coat of paint on your walls, tell you what type of paint you need, maybe help you with a paint selection, that kind of thing. And he also does exterior painting, so we're coming into that season here shortly. So Michael Davenport with CBB Windows and Doors. They are located in Newport News. They have a great big manufacturing facility for making the windows right there in one of the commercial development areas down there. And they've been there for, I've been using them, probably found out about them a year after they got started. I want to say I started using them back in 2000. And they'll custom make any windows that you need down to the 16th of an inch if you got a specific window size you're looking for. So they'll do replacement windows and new construction windows, single pane, double pane, and then also, or I don't know if they do, I meant to say single or double hung. And then they also do sliding doors, and then they also have some exterior door options there too. And I'm Albin with Albin Co. We specialize in remodels, additions, baths, kitchens. If you got a house you want to build, we can help you with that also. And we also do fire restorations also. Tonight we were going to talk a little bit about well, before I get started with that, I got a couple questions I want to throw out there to get some callers calling in. And we just wanted to see if you could answer this question. It's a code question. And Damien and I were talking off air, and we were like, well, maybe I need to explain code. And we'll get into that in a minute. But code does have a lot to do with building, whether it be additions or renovations and remodels, exterior, interior, anything about the structure, electrical, plumbing, and all that stuff. How much room, and this is the question, see if you can call in. Anybody that calls in tonight, whether you're just needing some help with something that's going on with your house, or whether you have a friend or a family member that's got something going on and you're trying to help them, we'll try to give you, maybe get you in the right directed in the right direction of maybe getting an answer for your question that you have. And don't forget, when you call in, you're really helping everybody that's listening, or potentially helping other people that are listening, because they may have the same problem you're having. And some of these things can be deal basically with moisture. They could be something to do with cold. They could be do something with large swings in temperatures, as we're going to be experiencing tomorrow. And so along that line, how much room is required at the top and bottom of stairways for houses? So you got a set of stairs. When you get to the bottom or the top, how much room are you required by code to have at the top and at the bottom of each set of stairways in the house? So, and then we all right,
I got a follow-up question on that,
okay,
since we're going to talk stairs. What's
Yeah.
the code height range for a handrail, like the handrail for them very same stairs? You got to have one, and what height does it need to be? And if you call in and
question.
and if you call in and have an answer, or just to try it an answer, you'll get basically free coffee, a gift certificate to a fine, fabulous free coffee place.
Yep.
So
Either answer a question or try to answer a question, or call in to just get an answer to a question you have. We'll get you a free coffee gift certificate to Wawa or Royal Farms or one of those places out there. So, call in, try to answer one of those questions. And so, Damien and I have been throwing around some ideas of what to talk about, and we were going to talk a little bit more about shrink swell soil. I don't know if anybody knows, but this area is got a lot of that. And Damien, you were telling me.
What'd you call it? Shrink swell soil?
Yeah, shrink swell soil.
All right, what does that mean?
Or expansive soil. So basically, when your soil is dry, it's going to have a certain amount of volume to it, but as it takes on water, the volume of that soil is going to increase. And actually, it's almost like bloated soil. It just kind of expands and pushes out on stuff. And maybe even can compare it to going from a liquid form to a freezing form, where water is one size and you put water in a crack in concrete and freeze it. It's going to expand against the size of that, and it's going to cause cracking and all that stuff. So
kind of like a new sponge, how it starts off all small, and then you add some water to it, and it swells up.
Perfect. Yes, that's exactly what happens. So that soil will shrink and then swell, and it just kind of moves between that depending on the temperatures, how much moisture is in the area. So you were saying that you actually saw that happen.
Yeah, you brought it up on a past show. You were talking about houses with pillars. Somebody called in from the ocean front. I think it was Sandbridge area, and they were talking about they've got, I think, cracks in their wall or something. And you brought up, you were like, well, if your house is on those pillar foundations, if you have a side of the house that freezes and stays frozen, the ground will actually move. And like that shrink swell soil that we have here, like that you mentioned before, kind of like that sponge effect. I've noticed that when it's the heat of the summer and we're in that drought, the ground will get all hard, rock hard and dry, and your grass is dying, and it gets those cracks across the top, kind of like a dried up lake bed. And then in the winter, like now, when it's soggy and squishy underneath of your feet, it kind of swells up like that wet sponge. But I got to see that when it was freezing for a week or two behind my house, where it stays the north side of it, where it stays in the shade, stayed frozen for a while. Man, right by my chicken coop area by the woods, it was frozen for weeks. They were not happy about it. But beside the side of my house, I could actually see the soil was raised up a little bit. And it stayed raised up in a mound. And you could see it with your eyes, with the naked eye, and throughout the frozen time, which is kind of awesome. It's kind of interesting to see after you mentioned it. I've never noticed that before.
Yeah, so you could imagine the compounding effect from soil going from dry to wet to frozen wet. I mean, it's going to basically, not frozen, I guess frozen wet, you can't, that's kind of, anyways, wet frozen ground or liquid that's frozen in the soil is going to be a compounding effect. So now you've gone from shrinking to swelling and then frozen, which is going to make it swell even more. So it's just a bad combination, and we kind of have to deal with that in this area.
Now, what's the effect on a house? And then I got more questions on what types of houses are affected the most.
So the effects on the house, a lot of people out there, we get a lot of calls like this. This is, well, my doors won't close in my house. I'm seeing cracks appear above the doorways. There's some weird thing going on in my house where there's a hump in the house, cracking in the foundation where you might have brick or block cracking. It could impact your driveways too. And so all those are kind of after effects or effects from that taking place. And it's a nasty thing that we have in this area. So in order to combat, though, that, we need to try to mitigate the water, get it away from the house, move it away, whether you check to make sure your gutters are clean. You want to make sure that the water coming out of the gutter is going somewhere. It's not just sitting at your foundation. So gutters are a wonderful thing as long as they actually get the water away from the house after they leave the downspout. So you want to have some grading in the yard to some low points, and you want to be good stewards of that. Make sure you're funneling it away from you and your neighbors and maybe out to the road. But the more you can get that, the water's our enemy. So the more we can get that water away from our structures, even sheds and detached structures, the longer your structures are going to survive.
So is it bad if the water from, the rain, all that's flooding right now around everybody's home, if the water, let's say, is up against the foundation blocks and it's not sheeting away from the foundation blocks, if it's kind of laying up against it, is that a problem?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're allowing it to sit right against your foundation, that probably means if it's pooling there, the ground is probably taken on as much of the water it possibly could. And now it's just water on top of water. And then if you allow that to freeze, it's gonna create problems for decks, for exterior walls. It's just a bad combination altogether.
Sure. And I know it's a lot different between different areas of Hampton Roads. When I lived in Norfolk Highlands area, I guess Chesapeake, Indian River sort of area, at my mom's house there, at one point it flooded in the yard. So we dug a vertical French drain. I just took a post hole digger and we got down to 6 or 8 feet and put a pipe inside of it. Yeah, dry well. And all the water that would pool there would just go down to the sand and just go away from the sand. Now where I live in South Mills, you get past 8 inches of soil and you get just hard clay for feet of clay.
It doesn't do good for plants either. If you're a plant enthusiast, you want to grow something out in the yard and you put it in, you dig a hole, put the plant out there, and next thing you know, it's like dead. And it's because water gets into that nice soil that you put there, but it has no way to go into the ground. So it's like putting a pot in the ground that doesn't have any holes for water to get out and just sits there, kills the plants, rots the roots and all that stuff. So you got to break through the clay, or you got to come up with another method to even grow your plants in this kind of stuff that we're dealing with. So, yeah.
So in Albin's here, again, with 757 House Whisperer, 757housewhisperer.com is where you go to get in touch with any of the experts that are part of the 757 House Whisperer Club. And we're here every Wednesday with Albin and Chuck and everybody else that we talk with. But since we're talking about the crawl space and these wet and moisture...
I forgot to give the number out.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's 757-627-7979. If maybe I did, I don't remember if I did, but call in, 757-627-7979. Call in with any questions you might have about maybe some shrink swell issues you're having. We're burning a lot of wood nowadays. We're going to be throwing out some ideas about chimney safety, making sure that you're okay there. Call in if you're trying to figure out, okay, well, now that you talked about this, your shrink swell, how do I, give me some more pointers on this, managing water stuff. So sorry to step on your toes there. Go ahead.
Good. And just kind of one last note that I was thinking about the foundations, and those of us who have crawl spaces here in Hampton Roads, this time of the year when the water, or when it's raining, it's flooding outside, and there's water up against your foundation bricks of your home. And you've been under quite a bit of houses. You've built houses, and with Albin Co., you guys remodel and build houses, the whole 9 yards. You tell me about this, and what is the condition for most people in Hampton Roads? I've crawling under a number of homes, and it seems that the underneath of the home is actually the ground is lower and it's sandy. You crawl out of there under your belly underneath of a home. The ground is actually lower than the ground outside.
Yeah,
and you can
a lot
see
of times that happens is a lot of people are building up their flower beds. Every year they put a little more mulch on the ground, and the year after that, they're like, hey, the mulch is looking pretty bad. Let me put a little more there. You do that for 20 years, what's going to happen? Sure. So sometimes you just got to start over. Pull out all that mulch, get your beds a little lower, start at a new level. You're starting to create a little swimming pool underneath your house where, if water has a way in, it doesn't have a way out. Yes, good management there. Going back to the code, which we said we were going to talk about, code is basically something that the government has set up to help people be safe. It's for the public's good, to keep them safe. When you're coming into somebody's house, you're visiting at their house, you want to know that the house you're visiting, you're not going to fall through the floor. You got a group of people meeting in the middle of the house. You want to make sure the house doesn't, that floor system doesn't collapse. You having a party on a deck and everybody's dancing at the same time. You want to make sure the deck doesn't collapse. And all those things, we start to develop safety nets to make sure, or standards to make sure that decks are not going to collapse, that structures are not going to collapse, that electrical work is properly wired. You have ground fault GFCIs in the right place, that you're not connecting your ground and neutrals incorrectly, and plumbing. You want to make sure that you're venting it properly. There's a lot of stuff that people just you got to have traps with plumbing. There's all kinds of stuff. But if you're just going to do it yourself and you say, I'm a DIYer, I don't care about code, and then you go to sell your house, and then you realize that some inspector comes in that does know code, or like, this is not built to code, then you have an issue on hand. So the code allows for an inspector to come into your house and say, I have a standard that I've studied, and if it doesn't meet that standard, I'm going to tell you about it, and make sure that when you're buying the house, you're at least aware of those issues. I'm guessing you could probably still buy the house. There are some code issues that have to be addressed before a bank is going to sign off on a loan for you on that house. So it also protects the banks to make sure that they're lending you money to something that actually is going to be able to be sold again in the future. So all that adds up to safe living for you. It's centered around the buyer, the person living in the house, the bank, making sure that all the electricians and plumbers are all on the same page. So,
all right, cool. So that's what code is.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Now we're live here this hour at 6:25. We can take some calls and questions. And with that, let's go to Williamsburg. We've got Ken on the line. Welcome, Ken. How are you?
Hey, Ken.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Thanks for calling in. You got a question for us?
Yeah, so I had a heat pump system installed up in the attic, the system up in the attic. The drain pipe that comes off it, that drains the condensation water out of the heat pump, the PVC pipe comes across the top of the attic where it turns the elbow and goes down between the walls. The company that installed it never glued that together. Well, we never realized that was leaking water until a week and a half later when we walked through the closet and we were stepping in water. So I'm having to have the carpet replaced and the carpet pad replaced. My question to you is, should I be concerned about mold, sheetrock, or installation that's between the walls?
You definitely want to check that out. You could potentially, you said a week and a half later. So if I understand it right, let me make sure I paint this picture right. You got a new unit, you got some work done, and 1.5 weeks later, you ran into this and noticed it. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Right. So it was leaking water that whole time, and we didn't know about it until it soaked out far enough in the carpet away from the wall.
Okay. Yeah, so you definitely want to, is this an interior wall, exterior wall? Where was the leaking, like, into the wall coming from?
Yeah, it's on an exterior wall, but of course the leak was inside on the interior, right?
Okay. Yeah, so if the pipe is going down on an exterior wall, you probably have some wet insulation in there. You may need to open that wall up to get that to dry out correctly. You know, you can have some inspectors come in there with some moisture meters and maybe try to figure out how much moisture is behind that. You definitely want to get it checked out. It's not something you just want to kind of risk. You may end up with some issues on hand. So I would definitely recommend you getting that looked at a little bit closer by an expert, and we can come in. That would probably one that I would say I'd recommend Cindy with Alpha Pest Solutions. She can help you with moisture, so we'll get your number and we'll put you in touch with the right people to get that dealt with. You definitely want to get all those pipes, glued properly. If you haven't already. Sorry that happened to you. That's just a terrible thing.
Did you call them back and have them come fix their boo-boo?
Yeah.
Don't say their name.
But, at this point, I'm not quite so sure I want them to do any work on it. There was a warranty with it. They're going to replace the carpet and stuff. But, I'm like, should have been done right the first time. We wouldn't be here. So.
I feel the same way. I wouldn't like them back in my house either. Yeah.
Yeah, so again, sorry that happened to you, and we will be reaching out to you and getting you in touch with a person that's going to be able to help you through that situation.
Yeah, that's a tough break, and we'll talk a little more about that because that type of thing happens, and what should a homeowner do when damage is caused by, the fault of somebody, and you want to get your house taken care of, right? And Albin will talk on the other side of the break. We can do that, but we've got to go to news break real quick. We'll be right back right here on 757 House Whisperer. It's News Talk 790 WNIS.
Give us a call.
Okay.
Albin with 757 and HouseWhisperer.com show. We are here today trying to stir up some questions out of you guys to see if there's anything we can help you with. Anything about your home, if it's squeaking or creaking or cracking, or you're getting moisture in the house, or you're getting mold in the house, or it's too hot or cold, or some other annoyance that might be happening with your house, we can try to help you. Wanted to introduce the team here. They're not here today. They all got something going on. We got Chuck Worley with, he's the founder of 757 House Whisperer and also the owner of Worley Home Services. He specializes in HVAC plumbing, electrical spray foam, crawl space encapsulation, and geothermal wells, or just wells by themselves. So, and then I have Cindy with Alpha Pest Solutions. She's going to help you with your moisture, crawl space. Maybe you want to have your crawl space inspected. She also does, will lay down some plastic if you need it. Look at that, stretch it out. She also will do inspection for moisture damage, mold, mildew. And she's darn good at it, and she's the critter getter if you need one. So Cindy with Alpha Pest Solutions. So we got Jack Keller with Legacy Painting. He's the owner of Legacy Painting, and he is really good at painting. He's the youngest guy on the show, and he's knocking it out of the park, giving people a great product, interior, exterior painting. He'll do some drywall work if you need that also. But really fantastic guy. We got Michael Davenport with CVP Windows and Doors. They specialize in custom windows, vinyl windows. They'll give you any size you want, double pane, double hung, single hung, vinyl sliding doors, and then they also offer some exterior doors, but they manufacture their windows right here in Newport News. And then I'm Albin with Albin Co. We specialize in remodels. We'll do kitchens, baths, whole house renovations. We'll come in, gut the house, move walls around, put in beams, whatever it is you're looking for. We also do additions and also new home construction. And so today we've been talking about shrink swell. We've been talking about moisture issues. We just had somebody calling in that had some issues with some piping for an HVAC unit that wasn't actually properly joined together with PVC glue. And Damien and I were talking off air on that. And we were just kind of talking about, well, what do you do in that situation? Well, sometimes even the best of contractors will make honest mistakes. Was this an honest mistake? I can't really tell you. We didn't talk about that with her. What I can tell you is look to work with reputable contractors. Be sure somebody is referring this person to you. Make sure that they're not saying, hey, we can do this without a permit. You want to get permits. The permits, and we were just talking about code. You want to get a permit. You want to get that inspection. This could have possibly been caught, and she may have avoided a week and a half long leaking into her house with this wonderful new AC unit. Now she's got another problem on her hands. I'm not saying she didn't have the permit pulled, but I'm saying there's probably a lot of people listening right now that are about to sign contracts or have somebody do work where they said, we don't need a permit for this. And maybe this will put you in check right now to say, maybe I should consider just telling them, go ahead and get a permit, because it's going to cost you a little bit more because there's permits cost money. But the permitting process and the inspection process is to protect you as the home buyer or the property owner. So,
and like you said during the break, you told me off the air, you were like, yeah, that probably would have gotten caught if you would have paid extra for an inspection or the permit. Now, the the inspector would have came out and said, hey, there's no primer on that PVC right there. That's not going to pass because you didn't glue it. No, knucklehead, let's go ahead and glue that, and then you would have avoided all of that if there was permits.
The guy would have failed his inspection. Yep. He would have glued it, and then he would be right back on his way. So when people are doing the permit process, they tend to make sure they get it right, and so it helps them keep themselves in check too. So just think about that the next time you're about to hire a contractor. So, look, we got another caller calling in. Daniel, Virginia Beach. Hey, Daniel.
Yes, sir. I've got a large lot. It's about an acre, but up and around and close to the house, I have a lot of puddling of water and need to get some grading done, I guess. What's the best approach to that?
Are we talking about a quarter acre lot, a large lot?
Exactly about an acre in size.
Okay.
But it appears that the grading isn't proper, and having to walk through puddles sometime, like now where the rain has accumulated, to actually get in the house.
Well, some of that problem can occur, and I'm not saying this is your case, but this would be a great time to talk about it, is if you don't have gutters and the water's falling off the roof, it's amazing the water force hitting the ground, what it's going to do to your ground. It will eventually erode that soil. I've seen it even put lines in concrete. It really does damage, even falling off a 1-story or 2-story house. It's just relentless. So if you don't have gutters, I suggest you get gutters. If your gutters are if your gutters are clogged or you haven't checked them recently, I would suggest getting somebody out there, clean the gutters, make sure the downspouts are working. You were mentioning that you're walking around in the puddles, maybe go check your downspouts and see if they actually are working properly. And then I would say, if they're working properly, most of you'd be surprised how many gallons of water are coming off of that roof in a rain. And your best bet is to get it all away from the house. So again, do you have gutters? If so, are they clean? If you don't have gutters, get them. Make sure the downspouts are directed away from your house. If you have to add extensions or put splash blocks down, you can do exposed aggregate French drains to get the water away, or you can do underground where you can dig. You could dig you a trench, put some erosion control mat in there, put some gravel in that with a perforated pipe and a sock on that, put more gravel on it, and then wrap that erosion control mat around the entire thing. We call it a burrito. And then you can put soil on top of that. Now, it's important that the soil you place on there is permeable, meaning if you just dug a trench with clay and you did all that work, you want to make sure you don't put clay back on top of that whole thing, because you want to be sure that that water hitting the ground is causing it, will allow for that water to get through to that perforated pipe and away from the structure. I don't really know what kind of slope you have on the soil there. That is one solution. If you don't have a lot of room for that, then I would say some type of swell, getting it to the lowest point on the property is going to be your best bet. But you address it, just your first step is calling us and saying, hey, I got an issue. Your second step is to either, hire somebody to come in there and look at that, or put in the time and effort and sweat equity into reshaping that. But watching the water is an important step. Going out there when it's raining and figuring out where water is moving, and then just map that out on a piece of paper and start working towards a goal of saying, okay, the water is definitely getting, the low spot is over here, and I need to work a plan up to get that water to that point. So make a plan, work the plan. I'd be glad to talk to you more about that. Again, you'll get a free coffee for calling in. Those that are listening, 757-627-7979. We'd be glad to help you guys out. Daniel, thank you for calling in, and I'll be calling you a little bit later so we can discuss this some more.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
Yeah.
So, so water's our enemy. We need to get it away from our houses. We don't know exactly what his situation was, but all those things could come into play for anybody listening. Good gutters, a good drainage system, removing any excess soil against the house that could be causing a pooling effect under the house, encapsulation. There's a lot of problems that come from a moist crawl space, and if you're not dealing with that moisture in the crawl, it's going to just come all the way up into the house and cause problems in the house. It's just disastrous.
And I'd like to throw this one out there. Everybody listening, now's the best time of the year to crawl in your own crawl space. Because get this, because it's the dead of winter, there's no bugs. You're not going to have to deal with spiders all over the place. You're not going to have cockroaches and crickets and spiders and spiders and spiders and snakes. That's not under your crawl space right now. It's cold under there. It's chilly. It's going to be 33 degrees tonight. So this is the time this weekend. Throw on an extra long set of long johns and crawl underneath of your crawl space. You'd be surprised at what the tale will tell you. And if you see something that doesn't look right or that looks messy, take pictures of it. And then call next week on 757 House Whisperer Show and find out what's going on, and let's discuss it. But at least you'll know. And am I right on that? Kind of, this is
it's a great time to get in there. You should, if you don't get in there yourself, you need to have somebody going in there and inspecting. A lot of people think it's out of sight, it's out of mind, that nothing's happening until all of a sudden you got a hole in your floor because the moisture just found its way all the way through to underneath of your custom vinyl planks that you just put in, and you're like wishing that you dealt with it before then.
And then your money will be out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, exactly. So, maintenance is an important part of the process. And going back to some other things that we were talking about is the code is another thing that is really nice about the residential code book. And we have the state and we have the local codes. Sometimes local codes are going to come into play because of specific conditions within that area. But we also have what is called prescriptive methods or prescriptive methods. So basically the prescriptive method says if you're going to build a 1-story house, it's going to have 8-foot ceilings, and it's going to have certain widths, and you're going to go with standard windows or doors. The code already has told you what size framing members you need to use in all those conditions, so you don't have to go get an engineer involved. So as long as you're following within those guidelines and there's not anything weird about your house. So let's say, for instance, let's talk about weird. We'll just go really weird. You want 40-foot ceilings in your house. Well,
it's weird.
You're outside a prescriptive method, so there's going to have to be some engineering involved. No inspector is going to come in there and say, "Yep, you passed," because you've got some really funky stuff going on. So, but if you stay within the guidelines of what prescriptive is, you can basically go through and pick out what size joists you need, what size girders you need, what size rafters you need. They even tell you how to tie it together. And if you follow all those guidelines, you could build yourself a house on your own and pass the code. I mean, of course, they've also got prescriptive methods for probably electrical plumbing. That would be a question that would come in for Chuck. But we actually hire reputable electricians and plumbers for our work, so we let them follow the guidelines for what needs to happen there. So we got another caller coming in online here. So Chris in Virginia Beach has a question about a kitchen redone years ago. Hey, Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Thanks for calling in.
So, like I said, I had my kitchen done probably 20 years ago. At the time, it was just me. And sink used to be next to the window, put it in an island, dishwasher, all that stuff. Now that I have wife, kids, and, doing a load of laundry, running the dishwasher, somebody's taking a shower, it's not draining. And I just feel like when it was me, one thing going at a time, I just feel like when they redid the kitchen, they didn't do a good job with the drain plumbing.
Uh-huh. So, couple questions for you on that, because it could or may not be the plumbing issue, but it could be some other issues going on. Are you on a septic system?
No.
Okay. And how old is the house altogether?
Oh, altogether, originally it's probably built in 57.
Okay, so I don't know the cutoffs for when cast iron pipes were introduced. Are you in cast iron pipes in any of the house?
Yeah, the original was, because originally it was just a 1-bathroom. So, yeah, that was all cast.
Okay, so a lot of times, I say a lot of times, sometimes, and I've even ran into this with a customer that I was just speaking to last week, they had all the plumbing redone in the house. I don't know that you need to go that far. Is it a single story?
Yes.
Okay, so single story, you could probably go in there. You could maybe be able to look at have a plumber come in there, check out, open up your clean out, see if everything's good in there. You may actually have a lot of stuff in the cast iron portion of the piping that's causing the kind of like a traffic jam. So you're not getting the flow that you need in those cast iron pipes. I'm not saying this is the issue, but it would be the first place I would check before I would say somebody plumbed it incorrectly. I'm not. Was this a permitted project that you did, or you just kind of had somebody come in and do the plumbing for you?
Well, no, actually, and I don't think it was, because it was just, I went to a kitchen cabinet company and they did it.
Okay.
And like I say, originally the sink was, on an outside wall near a window. We did an island, and I'm pretty sure they said, "Oh, we got a plumber; he can take care of it."
Yeah.
But like I say, the thing that when I've been under there and I noticed things, which I didn't know now, I know now. Like where the sink is now, the plumbing goes back to kind of the exterior wall where it used to be. Then it kind of turns, and that's where it catches the vent too, where it used to. And I just, now I'm thinking, boy, they ran it a long way instead of.
Well, I'm going to leave this for Chuck. I'm going to have him call you because, again, I'm not the plumber. I'm not the resident plumber here. Chuck's team is going to be the team to talk to you about that. There are very specific requirements for how far a vent needs to be from a sink. You can have, I guess they call them Studer vents, which operate a little differently, and if those aren't installed, that could cause you problems. Yeah, so if things are not what they need to be, and wet vents or dry vents, or the grade is wrong on the actual piping, it could lead to a lot of problems in a house. So it sounds to me like you need to get somebody to come in there that can maybe take basically you being a one-story deal, they can go through the crawl space and identify. A plumber's just going to be able to notice right off the bat. It's like me walking through a house that's just framed. I can spot stuff that is going to be a problem. The plumber's going to be looking at it and say, okay, this is what we need to do to fix this problem. So, but I hope that's helpful. We'll get you in contact with Worley Home Services, and they'll reach out to you and discuss this problem a little bit more off air and get you going in the right direction.
All right, appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
We're quickly running out of time. Less than a minute left there, Albin.
Well, maybe we should address these questions we had, specifically how much room is required at the top and bottom of the stairs, and
how much
you're going to want to at least 36 inches. That's the minimum code. So I hope you all have a great night. Those that called in, you guys will get your coffee, and we look forward to talking to you next week on the 757 House Whisperer Show. Good night.